Welcome to Naturesque. I'm Michele Happy, and we're out here in the spring. It's kind of spring. You can see there's hardly any snow around, and last week the snow was pretty deep, but it's already starting to melt, so it's great. I heard some geese today, and I saw a lot of people out walking their dogs. I can see a squirrel just over there, so we know it's coming, so it's great. Last week we talked about how nature is all-knowing and knows everything that's happened since the beginning of creation. And today I want to talk about how that fits in with Naturesque and this knowing and how that all connects. So I want to start off by talking about a couple stories from my childhood. And as I mentioned last week, I grew up in a community or a farm where there were lots of outdoors available, and being out in nature was always something that we did. And when I was ready to go to grade 1, my sisters had already taught me how to read. So we spent a lot of time reading a lot of books, and I was already starting to learn how that was working for me. I loved reading. It was kind of an escape for me. Anyway, so the bus shows up at the farm. I'm all ready to go, excited to go to grade 1, and off we went. And the first few days were pretty exciting and wonderful. And as with anything, things start to get into a routine. And I remember playing outside at recess, and the boys would do their thing, the girls would do theirs. And there were maybe 6 girls, I'm not even sure how many. And within, I would say, a short time, this one girl, who was the biggest one of all of us, decided that she was the leader and she wanted to have dominance over everyone. And we didn't disagree because she was bigger than us, and so we kind of went along with it. I'm not sure how long it took, but recesses started to get very daunting. She would line us up like little soldiers, get us to follow the leader, do everything she wanted us to do. And if someone didn't follow exactly what she wanted, she would yell at us like a drill sergeant and put us back into line. Sometimes there was a little bit of physical pushing and so on. And even at some point, I remember her poking people with sticks. So that was, every recess started to become not fun. So that kind of went on for quite a while. I remember at some point I just didn't partake, which meant I was alone and didn't have anyone to really be around. So it started to get a little lonely. Then another incident to top it off, we were a community that were a Catholic community, and we went to church and we're somewhat religious in that respect, and school was a place for also catechism and lessons. So this one teacher, she was trying to teach us about sin, and I remember maybe we weren't getting the message, and she was trying to tell us that every time we sinned, that Jesus's hands were being nailed back to the cross. Well, wow, that was a super shocker to me, and I'm sure everyone else around. And it made you feel like, wow, this is not something I want to do. I don't want to sin. So the half-eaten sandwich that you didn't eat and you told your mom that it was delicious, you weren't going to do that anymore, nor were you going to fight with your sister or steal some cookies before dinner. All those little things that kids do. So that wasn't a great experience either. Another one to top it all off was being in this religious community. Catechism was paramount, and once a week the resident priest would come and teach us something about God and religion. So I remember sitting in class and being 6 years old, not really understanding what was going on and kind of struggling to listen, but we tried our best. And I remember one wintry day, someone found a pair of slippers on the floor, and we had tiled floors. So someone got this idea, I guess. We were all quiet about it, but they took that slipper and passed it across the room to someone else. Well, of course, when it did that, there was this big swooshing sound, and he would turn around and couldn't figure out what was going on. So after a while, this game started to be like a hockey game. It's just like going like crazy. And at some point, he turned around and caught the person that was doing the passing. And you could tell he was quite angry. So he walked over to that person and asked them to stand up. And at this point, I guess he was super angry. So he reached out and slapped that person right across the face. And I remember she crumpled to the floor and just laid there. Now at this point, I don't remember what happened next. So it also gave me that belief that authority figures in God, you couldn't trust them. You had to be perfect in order to be loved, which isn't true, but that's what I believed. So I'm not telling you this to get sympathy or anything like that. What I'm trying to explain is how I overcame that suffering. So this resentment and feelings that I had were able to overcome. So first of all, with the girls that were playing, I actually learned, my belief was that girls or women, you couldn't trust them. So if you wanted a relationship with them, it was just going to be superficial. And that played out for a long time in my life. I remember having a really close relationship with a girl in grade school, and one day she came to school and said, I don't want to be friends anymore. It's over. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that limiting belief was inside of me, and I went, okay, here we go. That's why I can't trust women. But you know what? I do trust now. What I had to do was, because there was this deep resentment inside of me, I had to let that go and forgive anyone in my life that was, say, a little girl or a woman, and say, it's okay, like, I need to forgive that so that I can move forward. So now my new belief is that I do have beautiful relationships with women, and I'm looking forward to a whole bunch more. Secondly, not trusting in God, basically in Jesus. So I struggled with spirituality my entire life, and it wasn't until I made this realization, I had all these ups and downs all the time, and that I can trust, and that spirituality is good. Now I don't have a religious spirituality. I'm more about nature and universe and that type of thing. But I have now come to terms with that because I was able to forgive. And I'm not forgiving because I think that person did the right thing. They didn't, but that's, that's their thing. But I'm forgiving so that I can move forward and I can have a new belief about spirituality. And then not being able to trust God and being perfect all the time was also another limiting belief. When we know we can't be perfect, we can only do our best. And again, there's that forgiveness piece that I had to work through so that I could have this new belief that I can be trusted, or I can trust others in authority, whether religious or other authorities, and that it's okay, that I am able to get through that, and now I've got through that particular problem. So I want to share something more. So that's kind of really negative, so I want to shake it off and tell you a little bit more of my story farther into that grade 1. So I was really happy when summer holidays happened that year. So wow, it was like time to relax and have fun at the farm and play and so on. And as fall approached, I was starting to get a little bit of anxiety, right? Because I didn't want to go back to school. But by some miracle, I don't know if I told my parents what had happened, but we were moved to a different school. So again, I was super excited to get back and go to school, and was ready to go. First day of school, get to grade 2, and lo and behold, my teacher is Sister Clara. And yes, she was a nun. So right away I had this bit of mistrust, an authority figure, and this religious background. Maybe it's not going to be great, but Sister Clara was a super lovely older woman. She had a kind smile, beautiful eyes, and a super soft, soothing voice. And she was teaching us, the basic things in grade 2. But the best time of the day was when she opened up this big, huge book that she had and read us stories. And I just love stories. I still do to this day. And the stories were actually Bible stories, powerful experiences, things going on in that book that I would loved being in that room listening to that. And that really solidified my love of reading and writing and that type of thing. So it was a wonderful time. The next couple of years were amazing. I had lots of other teachers, but one teacher in particular that everyone loved was Sister Rita, another nun. She was tall and thin. Her hair was always perfectly in place. She had a starched habit that seemed like it was pressed perfectly. She always walked with her hands right in front of her, back straight, and she walked really fast. And she walked so fast that I almost thought she floated. It was quite interesting. Anyway, Sister Rita had a real love for art and music. So in my grade 3, 4, that's what she taught us. So she would come in for music and play the piano and teach us the words to different songs, teach us the tune. She was super patient and kind, and everybody loved music class. It was always a lot of fun. And I still especially love Sound of Music because she taught us almost every song you can imagine from Sound of Music. Anyway, Sister Rita also had another wonderful trait, and I like to call it her superpower. And I love to see it in action. So when we were kids and we're outside at recess playing, especially little girls would lose a bracelet or a necklace or a ring and would go to their friends and say, "Oh, help me find this, I've lost it." So we would look everywhere. And by the way, our playground was maybe 4 acres, so it was pretty big. And finding something in that big of a space seemed pretty daunting. So if we couldn't find it, what we would do is run into the school, get Sister Rita, bring her outside, and what she would get us to do is hold hands in a big circle, and we would hold hands while she prayed to Saint Anthony to find whatever was lost. Well, we totally believed in her faith. So we would get out right at that point and start looking all over the place, and every single time it happened, we found what was lost. So to a 6-year-old living in small town community in the prairies, this was a pretty big miracle. And when we realized that this was happening, it wasn't just once, it would happen continuously. We really wanted to be kind of like her. So she, pardon me, she would teach us how to pray. And she would teach us how to be grateful, how to ask for things, how to ask for forgiveness, and how to be a better person, basically. So in those prayers, I was never as eloquent as she was, but I did learn, to do my best. So when we think about all of this that was going on, it reminded me of how I could pull that into my life. So I remember as a little kid waking up one morning and I could see the sun shining into the room. So I went to the window and opened up the curtain, and I saw the most beautiful prairie sunset. And I remember being so grateful for that sunset, thinking, wow, this is so beautiful, and being grateful. And as I got closer to the window, the sun was shining on my face. There was kind of a breeze kind of whispering through. And all of a sudden, I felt almost like there was this beam coming down on me. And it was this knowing that I was deeply loved and knowing that I mattered. And that knowing was amazing. It gave me a flame inside of me, gave me joy, gave me excitement. And through the years, that flame didn't always stay. It came and went, and a lot of things happen in your life. And I believe that everyone has this flame. You may not know it's there, but if it's a spark, sometimes we can still get it to liven up. And when we understand that we are deeply loved and that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, loves us, and we know that, and that we matter, it makes a huge difference in your life. And when I keep thinking about doing things together and this knowing, I like to think of it as this is the naturesque inside of me that's speaking to me, and I can find it in nature. A lot of times I look around and say, some people say, how can you forgive? But nature shows us all the time. This forest that I'm standing in, there's a lot of ponds here, and the beavers get busy, and you can see they're cutting down these smaller trees. They're like saplings because they need to build a house and they need to feed their family. And the forest is very forgiving because it knows, okay, we have to live in a symbiotic relationship, and it'll produce more seeds and more opportunity for this to regrow later as the years go on. So there's always forgiveness that's available to us. We just have to look and understand. So I want to be around like-minded people who are looking for ways to be better. Maybe you've got stress, anxiety, or maybe you're looking for a healthier body or a better relationship or more wealth and success, looking for your purpose, whatever it is. It's always better to go together. And there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go far, go alone. Or if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So if we simply hold hands and go together, I know that we can have a much better experience in our lives, and nature is a great place for me to find that. So if you have a chance to get outside and just feel the sun on your face right now, the sun is pretty good, and know that you're deeply loved and that you matter, that's a great step. So I'm sending my love and light to you today, and we'll see you the next time.